So as I said, my name is Stephen Tschudi, and our presentation today is Bringing Cohesion to COIL, Integrating Institutional Management, Professional Development, and Exchanges. I'm from the University of Hawaii, and my co-presenter, the first presenter, is Matthew Hightower, CEO of Class to Class. Matthew?
Thank you, Stephen. I'll jump to slide number 2. So at Class to Class, our mission is to help institutions around the world institutionalize virtual exchange or collaborative online international learning. And we're doing that by helping administrators and teachers connect, create, and manage these exchanges. So just to give you a brief background. So I know Stephen through, I went to the University of Hawaii and I kind of worked as a non-official entrepreneur in residence. And I was really interested in how could we connect classrooms around the world, specifically language classrooms. It was through this that I learned about collaborative online international learning. And I learned about Cultura and some of the work that Stephen did with his colleague Sabine Levitt at MIT. And it was through this experience that we ended up pitching at ACTFL at their first language conference type of event, and we won first place there. Then 2018, we worked with the University of Wisconsin and University of Kazakhstan doing an exchange. And then in 2019, we were given some grant money by the Institute of Innovative Global Education out of Japan, and they were part of this ACE MEXT initiative that I think Jan mentioned. And this was connecting 10 universities in Japan to 6 universities in the United States. And now in 2020, we're hoping to work with consortiums such as UMAP and other big kind of universities to keep kind of expanding what we're doing.
So the name of this platform is Immerse U, and the name of the company is Class to Class. That's C-L-A-S-S, number 2, C-L-A-S-S, Class to Class. Problems in implementing intercultural exchanges revolve around 3 key points, which are connect, create, and manage. When it comes to helping instructors from different institutions connect with one another so that they can discuss the possibilities of creating a COIL exchange or other exchange, only a few options exist, none of which really solve all the problems. Instructors can either contact their department head or the person who's in charge at their university for maintaining partnerships and ask what universities they have memoranda of understanding with, or if they know of any faculty members at the other institutions who would be willing to collaborate with them. They can try to find teachers on their own who are interested in doing COIL, but there's no single place to search and let's see. And find instructors that's really up to date and relevant. And the third option they have is to go to conferences and professional development seminars and network with other instructors in their field. Next, if teachers do happen to find a teacher to connect with them, then those 2 teachers will have to work together to create a joint curriculum and course. This process of creating a shared curriculum is very time-consuming and difficult. For example, there's no place for these teachers to work together on creating this shared curriculum, and some teachers we've interviewed in the past, such as the director of Uni Collaborations in Europe, have said that on average, he said he sends over 400 emails to his teacher partner, 400, to work out the curriculum, logistics, groupings, and tools they're going to use before the exchange even begins. And lastly, after going through this arduous process of connecting with and creating a COIL exchange with another instructor, both instructors will have to figure out how they are going to manage the exchange. So what we're presenting today is an environment for online exchange, Immerse U, a product of Class to Class, that allows all these stakeholders, educators, administrators, and students to fulfill 3 key functions in online exchanges. So in the brief time that we have together today, our plan is to consider the 3 challenges, first from the perspective of an educator, a teacher, and then from the perspective of an administrator. And finally, we'll have a look at the student experience inside Immerse U during an exchange with some of the tools that are integrated into the platform. Right, so from the perspective of an educator, a teacher who wants to find a partner and conduct an exchange, even perhaps without having a very concrete plan up front, these are the challenges. As far as connecting, one aspect concerns ideas for exchanges. With a whole world full of possible topics and ways of working together, what is right for me? Or in other words, in a global context, how do I get specific? And once the ideas start coming into focus, then the other aspect of the connect challenge is to find a fellow educator who is interested in doing similar work. Once a connection has been established and an exchange seems like a possibility, there are many problems to solve. Some are idea-related challenges, such as designing the sequence of learning activities that the participants in the exchange will undergo. Hence, what is my instructional design? And in service to this, what technology tools will I need to identify and deploy in order to carry out the instructional design? These constitute the create challenge. At the same time, even before the exchange begins, there are challenges related to managing the exchange. I'm sure I'll see a lot of nodding heads, even through the television screen, when I assert that high on the list of management challenges is reconciling calendars and time zones. A failure to overcome these challenges is fatal. But once the exchange does begin, then other management questions arise, including what we see here. How will learners work together and socialize, and how will I assess their work? In the following slides, we'll have a look at how the ImmerseU platform provides affordances to mitigate these challenges from the educator's point of view.
So for the educators, one of the biggest issues that we found kind of working with these universities around the world in these different consortiums is, okay, if I have an instructor or I know of someone or I am the person who wants to do one of these exchanges, where do I find another instructor? And so we've worked as a technology kind of startup to kind of identify, all right, what are the key things that teachers are out there searching for, such as discipline, geography, certain keywords maybe around kind of what class they're teaching. The other aspect is, are they available to collaborate? So we found there were some sites that maybe there was teachers who wanted to get into these exchanges, but they were more outdated, or the teachers that were on there are no longer active. So how can we showcase the teachers who are available, who really want to kind of collaborate, and how can we take this kind of this fragmented market of teachers trying to look for a place and kind of give them one place to go in order to find and easily connect with one another? And once kind of the flow of how this would work is an instructor gets on the site, they get brought to this colleagues page, they get to search for colleagues all around the world, and they can directly message them. If they're on the platform, they can see that they're on the platform, get in direct messages, get on live video calls, or they'll get sent an email saying, hey, you got a message from someone on class to class, and they would like to connect with you in order to discuss possibly getting into a collaboration. So the other aspect is, let's say as an instructor, you're going back and forth, and what we've created is kind of this collaboration stepper. So an instructor connects with another instructor. In this collaboration stepper, they kind of talk through like, hey, how are our students going to interact? Maybe what tools are our students going to use? And then they get into another section where they can plan out the exchange. So this is where they can build out lessons and activities together. And what we've done is kind of identified the key tools that teachers are using thus far to do these exchanges: discussion boards, blogs, live video calls, synchronous messaging, and then we built in the Cultura tools, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, which kind of focuses on situation reaction, sentence completion, and word association, which are pedagogically backed tools out of MIT. And so we built in these tools. We allow the instructors, we give them their own space to go back and forth, kind of plan out the exchange. This is when the activities are going to happen. This are the lessons. And then you can add more instructors if you have any other instructors that want to join, so it could be more than 2. And then we'll get to the management. So you've built out the exchange, you've planned it out, you know when it's going to happen. So this is the third part, which we've spoken to a lot of instructors, and after that second part, the planning part, they're pretty exhausted. And they're using a lot of different tools. Maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's WordPress, and they have no way of actually capturing kind of what the students are talking about or how the activities or lessons are going. So we built in a way where teachers can easily put students into groups, and those students can communicate with one another, and I'll walk through that in the student section. We've made it so that these consortiums and these universities can put together these professional development courses to help these instructors kind of get more information on what virtual exchange is and kind of help them guide through the process. And then they can easily see and review student submissions. And then we have these moderator tools where if students are uploading videos that they're sharing with one another, the teacher can say, hey, I want to see the video before the rest of the class or before another student, just as a way to seeing if it's culturally appropriate.
All right, so Matt has just toured you through the teacher's perspective with respect to those 3 challenges that we mentioned. Now let's briefly shift to the perspective of an administrator, someone in a supervisory or management capacity who is tasked with facilitating educators' involvement in international exchanges such as COIL initiatives at their home institution or even a consortium of institutions. An administrator tasked with this kind of facilitation considers the 3 challenges from a somewhat different viewpoint, and as we will see, uses distinct affordances of Immerse U to meet the challenges. But first, the questions themselves. As far as connecting, an administrator's view is more holistic on an institutional level. What other schools want to network, and for what? And how do we communicate? In terms of the challenge of creating or designing exchanges, this administrator is thinking about all the instructors they are facilitating in this endeavor and realizing that they may not all have the same degree of preparedness to engage in international exchange. So professional learning, also known as professional development, for those educators is top of mind. How do I demonstrate best practices? And how do I create and access professional development resources? Since the administrator is operating from that higher point of view, their management concerns are, how will I manage our partnerships and how will I manage our teachers? At the same time, the same management concerns that the individual instructor faced, such as academic calendars, are still there, and in fact may be more the administrator's responsibility than the individual instructor's responsibility. So the administrator needs to have a bird's eye view of the various exchanges happening under their purview. Let's have a look at the affordances of Immerse U for this population.
Yeah, and real quick before I jump into this, if I could get a raise of hands of how many administrators are in here? Okay, a few. So right now, if you're an administrator at a university trying to implement or bring virtual exchange into your university, you would have to go out kind of on your own and find out which instructors might be interested in this, and then you'd have to go out and try to find what curriculum they could, get educated with, the professional development. And so what we've tried to create is a space where these senior national officers, global engagement officers, or administrators who are in charge of bringing virtual exchange into their university can go here and kind of add their partners. A lot of universities already have these partners, or go and kind of search to see, hey, which institutions are rolling or institutionalizing this, and connect with their leader at their institution and have conversations about, okay, what teachers do you have that can maybe connect with my teachers here? And you can easily kind of connect your instructors at your university who have identified or told you that they'd be interested in this, and you can manage them, which I'll get into in a little bit. So when it comes to create, this is the space that as an administrator you can see your instructors' different courses. You can see who they're linked up with. We were speaking to Rosie from DePaul, who's kind of in charge of helping her instructors connect with instructors around the world. And what we did is we built in a way where she can go search for instructors on the site, message them, and connect her instructor at her university to another instructor and kind of act as a facilitator. And we've also made it so that they can connect their instructional designers or curriculum designers into the course. So if a teacher, this is the first time they're ever doing this, and they're in that planning phase, and they're like, hey, I'm really confused. How do I go about doing this? The instructional designer can log in and kind of work with the instructors to help them build out the course. And both instructors at both universities can see kind of how the course is unfolding and have data around that. There's also, we're working with the Institute of Innovative Global Education and hopefully the State University of New York to kind of build in this virtual exchange COIL training programs so that these instructors can access them on their own, or these administrators can give their instructors access to them, like Stephen mentioned. And then last is kind of the management, understand where your instructors are in the exchange, understand where the pitfalls that they're having are so that you can interject or get them resources to help do this. And the main goal is to, like I said, help these institutions or help you as an administrator roll this out without being wary of whether this is going to fail or not, really having enough information, enough guidance to try to make these exchanges work. So this last aspect, the student experience aspect.
That's my turn. All right. So in our remaining time, we have about 10 minutes left. Let's quickly dive into the student experience in ImmerseU to see how some of the activity types that a student might engage in, depending on how the teacher or administrator has designed the specific exchange. There's too much to be able to give you a comprehensive view, but for starters, I think it's important to note that some of the original activity types developed in ImmerseU and still high priority for international exchange, or intercultural exchange rather, are based on activity types in the Kultura project from MIT, and I'd like to give a shout out here to Sabine Levé, who originated these ideas with her colleagues and still valiantly manages the Kultura site at MIT, with which you may be familiar. In Kultura, the road to intercultural competence is mapped through comparisons, such that learners first observe differences, second, hypothesize reasons for the differences or values that might underlie the differences, and third, test their hypotheses in cross-cultural discussion. Several tools that facilitate the generation of data sets for comparison in Kultura are emulated in ImmerseU, and these include word association, sentence completion, and situation response. ImmerseU facilitates not only the generation of the data sets for comparison, so for example, if you give a word association task to a two-sided exchange, each side will generate the associated words in their first language, this is a classic Kultura model, that they associate with the seed word, and the seed word is a dictionary equivalent of the other. And then observe those clouds of words that have been generated as associations and try to find patterning in the differences. All right, so ImmerseU facilitates not only the generation of that cloud, those two different clouds of words, but also facilitates the subsequent discussion for hypothesis testing, all within the same activity sequence. Not only are the asynchronous conversations that typify the classic intercultural exchange accommodated in ImmerseU, integrations of synchronous communication tools allow real-time connections, schedules permitting, between individuals or groups in an exchange. But not every exchange is a Kultura-type exchange. Often, COIL partners will be working on a project, not just having a series of conversations. Projects can be run much more smoothly with project management tools. So, ImmerseU also offers integrations of established tools that facilitate management, such as Slack. All right, so let's move on to this sort of student experience.
Let's do it. Okay, so as a student logging into the platform, as you can see, the colors are a little bit different. So one of the things I want to emphasize is a startup and a company, we're not building this in a black box. A lot of how we've approached the development has been working with people such as Jan at the State University of New York, Miriam, the universities in Japan. And so this is an iterative process. Everything that we're learning, we're taking and going, okay, how can we redesign that better for the user experience? How can we add in new things to help with these? Because we're really focused on, allowing every single institution to do these virtual exchanges. So that being said, this looks a little bit different because this is our new version. So as a student, when you log on, you can see the coffee shop has announcements, general discussions. This is where teachers can say, hey, this activity is going to be due. Make sure that you're doing it. The students can kind of get off topic, activity or lessons and have discussions in this coffee shop. And then the students can see their upcoming assignments or lessons and activities to complete. And And then in this next slide, you can see that this is the students' pod dashboard. So I'll just go back real quick. So this is their classroom dashboard where they can see what's happening within the classroom. But as a teacher, you can put these students easily into groups. And we're calling these pods. And so the student can click in the right-hand corner into this pod dashboard. And what this does is this gives you information on all the students who are within your pod, and you can have kind of one-on-one conversations with them. We made it available where the instructor can turn that off if that's, a privacy issue or they don't want that to happen. But these students can get on live video calls if the other student's on immediately. They can message back and forth. They can work on activities together. They can plan out, if they're working on a project, they can use that calendar to plan out when they're going to get together and work on the project, or if they're going to use Google Docs or whatever it may be. So we did this for a number of reasons, but this pods is kind of centered around what we've been learning from Darla at the University of Duke when it comes to intercultural competency and working with these students to try to engage and work with one another. This is also another thing that we believe the future, talking to a lot of businesses, is teams. And Google and Facebook and a lot of these other big corporations have talked about how do I get my people to work better with one another, and how do we kind of integrate that back into higher education. So, kind of going over, briefly a recap of what we've built is for, teachers to help do these virtual exchanges, find one another, create these projects and manage them. For the administrators, connect with other administrators who are doing these exchanges around the world, and then, manage their instructors and help them create their activities. And then for the students, for them to work on these activities together with one another. Like I said, just to end it, we're definitely, feel like we're a company that's trying to partner with you to keep improving what we're building. We're not trying to come in here and say, hey, buy our stuff. We're coming in here to say, hey, work with us so that we can bring a value-added service to your university and we can help give a global education to all your students.
Okay, that gives us about 8 minutes for questions.
Thank you. It looks very interesting. So is this like a company initiative I would have to convince my university to purchase, or how exactly does that work?
Economics. Yes, so we have two, so it's a for-profit corporation. And so if your university was to adopt it from the top down, and do you work at the University of New Mexico by chance? Yeah. Okay, sorry, I thought I recognized you. So there's an administrative fee if they want to kind of roll it out and get more instructors involved. If you were to use it, right now our fee is per month that your students use it, and it's $5 a student. For the time that you use the platform, not for 12 months.
For international exchanges, I imagine it would still work. Do you know if it would work in China? Is it?
Yes, so we're working with the University of Mobility in Asia Pacific. It's 540 institutions in the Asia Pacific region, a lot of them being from China. Okay. And then we've also have a partnership with Amazon, and they're helping work with us kind of to get our infrastructure ready to work in China as well. So yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting platform to expand what we can do with the students. I'm always concerned with privacy issues. The students actually ask me, okay, there's a video of me talking to this person. Where is that going to be stored? Mm-hmm. So how do we handle those possibly legal, complicated things?
Right. No, that's a great question. So one of the big things at FERPA and obviously GDPR, and then the student security. So being a for-profit corporation that's charging the institutions, administrators, a fee, we're not selling any data. We have this data, it's backed up in the cloud, and it's secured by Amazon Web Services. And this data is held on to only to give to your institution if they want it 6 months later, or else then it's disposed of. And all data is held anonymously. So there is no data where we're having students' names are attached to anything or any of that. And we're not promoting, we're not showing videos off platform or posting any of the information. So your students' data is secure.
Any other question? We have a question here for the first presenter. I already asked her, but I would like her to answer the question.
Miriam? Yes? Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right.
Can North American universities participate in Erasmus Virtual?
They can participate in the activities, but what I did not mention, we are acknowledging the participation with badges and skills. We work with the Open Badge Factory. And we can only, because it has this focus on the MENA region and connecting north of the Mediterranean with the south of the Mediterranean, we can only give badges and this kind of acknowledgement to participants from that region. Others can participate as well, but they won't get the EU flagged badge for it. I think that answers the question.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for our current presentation?
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize one thing. So the teacher matching site where teachers can find one another, that's absolutely free. So any teacher can get on there and try to find another partner. It's just the institutional fee comes into play whenever you're connecting classrooms together and whenever you want your students to use our platform for the exchange. But in terms of finding an instructor, we encourage everyone to just go on there and find an instructor, and it's absolutely free to do so.
More or less, how many people are already utilizing your services?
So yeah, we have around 130 institutions and around 600 instructors on the site currently.
Okay. Okay, no more questions? Okay, let's give our presenters another thank you.